So playing the piano is a lot of fun, but one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time is, hey, how can I make my playing less rigid, less boring, and more exciting? And the answer to that, my friends, is rhythm patterns. Now, one of the reasons I personally like rhythm patterns is because they are an easy way to add some fun variety to your music, and it could take something that's very dull and straight and just bland and make it super exciting really quickly. So to show you how easy this is, I'm going to show you 6, yes, count it, 6 rhythm patterns that you can start doing right now to really make your piano playing a lot more fun. By the way, this is Josh at Piano Frenzy, and I'm excited you're checking this video out today. And as always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a beat. I don't want you to miss any of these videos. We're doing some really fun things over here. So our first rhythm pattern is going to use 2 quarter notes. I'll explain it right now. All right, so the first thing we have to do is figure out what chords we're going to use for our rhythm pattern. So for this one, I like to use A minor, F major, G major, and the D major. And then I like to also add a left hand octaves. That's just outlining the same notes. So for example, you're gonna have this, A, F, G, and the D major. So the 2 chord note rhythm is very simple. You're just gonna play 2 chord notes, 1, 2, 1, 2. And you're going to change chords every 2. So for example, A minor, F, F, G, G, D, D. So what we've done is just taking the basic rhythm rather than holding whole notes. We're just varying it a little bit, adding a little bit of a pulse to it. And you add your left hand. So for me, this is the easiest way to get into adding a basic rhythm pattern, and from here, you can expand. So the great thing about a 2-note rhythm pattern is that it keeps you right on the beat, keeps you steady, and it gives you a framework where you can do a lot more with it. You can add rhythms in between and much more. I'll talk about some of those in a second. So now that we got the 2 quarter note rhythm down, we're gonna start adding 8th notes to the rhythm. But we're gonna add them to the left hand. I'll show you what I mean. So once you're comfortable adding quarter notes into your right hand with the 2 quarter note rhythm, you can start adding 8th notes into your left hand. So rather than just holding the chords like that, you're going to do like this. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2. So now we're going to add the right hand to this left hand rhythm so you can see what it all looks like together. You can also mix this up a little bit, so if you don't want to do only octaves in the left hand, you could also just maybe take your thumb and do the 8th note like this. So yes, adding the left hand takes a little bit more coordination, so make sure you take your time, practice slowly, and really understand what you're doing, line those rhythms right up, and then you'll be comfortable the whole time. So far we've done the 2 quarter note rhythms with the right hand, and we've added the 8th note rhythms with the left hand, and we've also done some variants of it as well. Now we're gonna add 4-note arpeggios, which are gonna be done in the right hand. Now, if you're already a subscriber to the channel, then you know how much I love arpeggios. They're very easy to use. They really make your music sound a lot more uplifted. They fill in all the empty gaps. And it's a nice way to actually start practicing some additional rhythm patterns when you get ready to experiment. So let's go ahead and go over the 4-note arpeggio now. So when you're adding the 4-note arpeggio, it's the same chord structure, right? You're still doing the A minor chord, an F major chord, a G major, and a D major. But what we're going to do is add an octave on top. So your fingering for this should be 1, 2, 3, and 5. If you're not sure how to do arpeggios, make sure you check out my other arpeggio videos, which I'll link right up here, and you'll be able to go and check that out. So a basic rhythm would just be putting 4 notes together, kind of like this. And then you'll move to your next harmony. So for example, here's the whole pattern together. Now arpeggios are special, but they're not so special if they're uneven. So the biggest thing I would do is make sure you accent that thumb a little bit. That's what gives you your rhythm and your pulse. Otherwise, you might rush on your other keys. So I do want to keep it simple. So let's take your left hand back to long notes when we add our hands together now. So here's how we'll do it. And then we can think of some things we did earlier. So maybe we can add the 2-note rhythm that we did in the right hand earlier to the left hand while this hand is playing arpeggios. So here's what I mean by that. Or we can vary this even more. We can add the eighth note rhythm to your left hand and do this now. So I kid you not, I want you to make sure you pause and rewatch this part a lot. This is probably my favorite way to do a rhythm pattern. It's just by adding arpeggios, mixing up the left hand with some quarter notes and some eighth notes. And this just makes things sound really full, especially when you add the pedal into the mix. So as you can see, the 4-note arpeggios are a very simple way to add a lot more variety to the rhythm. It really fills in whatever harmonies you're putting on the piano at that moment, and it makes you sound cool and like a pro. Alright, so the next method that I love using is simply adding passing tones. So passing tones are notes that are not part of the main chord. So for example, if you have an A minor chord, B would be considered a passing tone, or G would be considered a passing tone, because it's not part of those core 3 notes that you're using. The cool thing with passing tones is you can play them at various rhythms and different speeds, and they kind of get you from one place to the next in a more interesting way, and it takes some of the dullness out of just simply playing, just for example, the 2 chord note rhythm, or just playing arpeggios. You can add a lot more with it. So here's how we're gonna go ahead and do passing tones. So passing tones, just adding notes that are not part of the main chord, is basically what we're gonna do here. So if I had an A minor, I have the option of adding a B, a D, even an F, or even a G. Things that are not part of that main chord. So an example of what you can do, maybe you can start like this. And then vary it now. So all I did was I just added just a quick little note in between. And I use finger 2 each time to do that. It's an easy way to do it. So the nice thing about passing tones is it helps you add even more rhythmic pulses to what you're doing. So for example, if I wanted to add 16th notes, I can do this. Passing tones can also be added when we're doing arpeggios as well. So here's an example of that, passing tones with arpeggios. Really, there's nothing wrong with how you do it as long as you get to your next chord on time, as long as you're making sure that all your harmonies are correct. There's just so much you can do with it. Passing tones can also be added into your more rhythmic hand, which is your left hand, which is your foundation, right? So we can also do something like this. So I'm just adding everything I need a part of the chord. I'm adding some F sharps, some E's, I'm passing it on between wherever I gotta go. It just depends what I'm trying to do. All right, that's passing tones. Now for our next method, we're gonna go ahead and add 16th notes in the left hand. 16th notes really kind of get the rhythm really moving and bumping along, and it's one of my favorite ways to do it. So I'll show you how to do it right now. So moving on here, we have 16ths, and the way I like to add 16ths is simply in the left hand. It just kind of, it works like the 8th note rhythm a little bit, but it adds a little bit more like da-da, a little bit more thump to it. So here's an example. You can even add a passing tone if you want to be your 16th note. For example, you can do it like this. And so I don't want you to feel like you're kind of like stuck in a box. You can only stay with the chord tones, right? The D, the F sharp, the A, the G, whatever it may be at the time. You can add the note that's up a second, down a second. You can jump, you can do leaps and skips, whatever you want to do here. It all works out. All right, so now we're on the final method, which is simply adding triplets for your rhythm patterns. Triplets are a really exciting way to do this because they really completely change the flow. You have to remember the triplet is equal to 1 beat. So you can fit 3 notes in the space rather than 2 notes like an 8th note. So it's a bit different, and you kind of have to think of the situations where you might want to use this. If you're trying to make an instant change to the mood, or you just kind of want to throw the listener off and get them thinking a little bit, triplets are a really good thing you can use for that. So let's go over how I would use triplets. So as I said earlier, when I really want to shock my listener, I like to add triplets into the mix. So here's an example of what a triplet is, right? Now triplets work best when they're broken apart like that, but you can also do them as chords, right? Kind of like that old 50s, 60s rock music sort of vibe. So if I put them together and I have my left hand, I'll just do the broken first. Now the chords. And then, of course, here's an example of us doing the same thing, but now I'm going to add some more rhythmic variety to my left hand. So you're going to see me add some passing tones, you're going to see me add some eighth notes and some 16th notes. So there you have it. That's exactly how I would use triplets when I'm working on rhythm patterns. Okay, I couldn't let you leave this video without adding a bonus tip. So in this last example, I want to show you progressively how we can add all of these methods together to create a really cool set of rhythm patterns to make just simple chords sound really cool. So here's how I would do this in real practice, and you can copy this method. You can stop and rewind and pause the video if you need to try them out yourself. And I encourage you to bookmark this video so you never forget how this is done. So here's how we're gonna do that. What I really want to show you right now, what I hope you pause and rewatch and rewatch and pause and rewatch and save this video, because this is really going to be cool, is how we can take a very basic rhythm pattern from the very beginning, everything we talked about, right, the chord notes, and expand it to all the different things we've already discussed. So here we go, let's give it a try. So of course I had some fun with it there at the end. Yeah, I did some things I didn't exactly talk about, but what I'm trying to get the point across is you can do anything you want to do once you've got your bass area, right? Start with the quarters, add the eighths, some 16ths, some triplets, some arpeggios, some passing tones, throw it all in there and mix it in. As long as you have your harmony, you're gonna be just fine trying this out. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. I love rhythm patterns. You should try all of these out right now. Make sure you come back to this video, like it, save it so you never forget it. And you can try this out in different keys with different harmonies as well. Just make sure you have 4 different harmonies you're going with, and it'll be a lot of fun to do. All right, with that said, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.